Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I'm the founder of Fitness Uncharted, which is my fitness and nutrition coaching company designed for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, optimize your metabolism, and have complete food freedom. And today we are talking all about how to periodize or phase your nutrition protocol for sustainable fat loss. And we'll get into what that actually means in this episode. But you have to phase or periodize your nutrition if you want sustainable results, like point blank, period. End of story. And I actually sent out an email to those of you who are on my email list, letting you know about a live training that I was doing. As of the time this releases, it'll be more than a few weeks back, but I was doing a live training in my free Facebook group on this topic. And if you're not in the group, but you want to be, we do like weekly live trainings. We give away a ton of resources in there. You can comment or post or ask questions in the group about anything like fitness, nutrition related. So, anyway, if you want to join the group, head on down to the show notes and click the link that says Facebook group, and then you can join. But someone responded to my email where I was announcing the live training, and they said that they're not on Facebook, but they really want to hear this training because I was talking about periodizing your nutrition. And she was like, I really want to hear it though. Could you send me a replay? Or, which sometimes I do have replays. In this case, I did not. I was like, it's only live, like in the group. So if you miss it in the group, you miss it. But I was like, you know what? Let me create a podcast episode about this because I imagine if she really is interested in this topic, a lot of other people are too. And I do have, which I pointed her to another episode I have. It's episode 55. Which is called, why you can't diet until you hit goal weight. It's about a fat loss phase. So if you haven't heard episode 55, go back and give that one a listen because there is some crossover here. But I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth on periodizing nutrition more specifically in this episode. But that one's really important too because we address the why of why you cannot keep dieting until you hit goal weight. So let's talk about that really quickly. So why can't you? Like, if you have 20 pounds to lose, 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds to lose, why can't you just keep holding yourself in a calorie deficit or keep up with your goal of losing weight? Why do you have to like come out of your calorie deficit or stop actively pursuing fat loss or weight loss? The reason is that you're going to see muscle loss and you're going to see a downregulated metabolism more so than is ideal or optimal. And what that means for your body is that you'll lose more muscle mass than is ideal, which when you lose weight, it's natural to maybe lose a little bit of muscle with that. Like when you put yourself in a deficit, some things you can do to help counteract that is eating enough protein, not being in too extreme of a deficit, and also strength training while you are in a deficit to send the signal to the muscle that, hey, we still need this active muscle tissue. Don't get rid of that. Let's hold on to that. And instead, let's burn this body fat, right? So those things can help, but you still might lose a little bit of muscle mass, but you can control how much or by doing those things can help it. If you are dieting too long or you're in too an extreme of a deficit, you're going to lose more muscle than what you want. And muscle is very calorically expensive to have on your body. So simply by having more muscle, you're going to burn more, you're going to have a better working metabolism, better hormones, all the good things with that muscle mass. So you don't want to lose muscle as much as possible. You want to actually maintain or build muscle. So what will happen if you downregulate your metabolism? You'll lose more muscle than what you want. You'll end up looking basically like a smaller version of your current self. So this is where you can kind of think, quote unquote, skinny fat is how a lot of people refer to themselves when they get to this point. They're like, I just look like a smaller version of my fat self. Like it's like I still am not feeling confident or happy with where I'm at. I still feel like soft or squishy and I've been there myself where I was very small and I didn't weigh much on the scale, but I was like I had soft squishy noodly arms is what I called them. My spaghetti noodle arms, right? And so I've been there before myself. So oftentimes we're like, okay, the scale went down, but we don't even realize in the process we lost so much muscle during that. And then we don't even like the aesthetic, even though the scale says what we thought we wanted it to. We're not where we want to be aesthetically, and we still don't feel confident in our skin or strong or capable or any of those things, right? So you'll probably not look the way you want. You'll also be higher for a likelihood of sarcopenia, which is that muscle loss. And with that muscle loss comes strength loss. So you're going to feel weak and frail. I was just talking with a client who recently graduated our program. She's in her 60s, and she did Optavia before our program and lost a good bit of weight, but she was like, I lost a lot of muscle in that process, and I know I did damage to my metabolism. And she was like, I just felt so weak. She's like, what's the point of losing weight if you feel frail and weak? She's like, this is way better to do it this way where I feel strong and capable, right? So with that sarcopenia, it's like it's not all just about aesthetics either. We want to feel strong and capable and confident. And then along with that, you could see also hand in hand with being frail, you might see osteoporosis or osteopenia. That's where you have that poor bone density and you are very frail. You're much more at risk of breaking bones. And this is something that becomes super important for women as we're aging. And not to mention the slower metabolism. So, meaning it'll be harder to lose weight in the future. So, all of these things, like if you're slowing down or down regulating your metabolism, it's just going to be harder to lose weight in the future. And you're going to be more likely to regain weight. And you're also not going to be able to eat as much food as you could when your metabolism was healthier and you had more muscle mass on your frame, which makes it that much more likely that you will regain body fat. So we can kind of think of it like as muscle goes down, the likelihood of body fat going up, in correlation to that or correspondence, whatever the word is, like the opposite of that, like that body fat is more likely to go up easier if we're losing muscle for so many reasons, you guys. This is why the show is called The Muscle Makeover. It's not called The Body Makeover, The Body Fat Loss Program, Body Fat Loss Simplified, Fat Loss Rules, whatever. It's called The Muscle Makeover because seriously, if we could all switch our mindset to maintaining or building muscle, it doesn't mean you're going to get bulky, ladies. It means that you're going to be able to maintain a healthy, confident, fit body composition and keep off body fat easier or have a healthy balance of body fat. So that's why we don't want to just try to keep losing weight until we hit goal weight if we have more than like say 15 pounds to lose. Okay, so that's the why. I hope that was convincing enough for you to still listen on. So what can you do? First, you need to spend more time eating at your maintenance calories. So a large majority of the women I talk with, we come to find out, whether we're on a consultation call or we're chatting in the DMs or whatever, we come to find out that they are not eating enough food, like a large majority, like 90 plus percent of the women I talk to. They may not, some are very severely under their maintenance calories, others maybe not too much, but I'm like, hey, if you're plateaued and you haven't been eating at maintenance, you might need maintenance or even a slight surplus to help you build more muscle and see the body recomposition you want. And when I say maintenance as well, most of you guys listening probably know what that is, but your maintenance calories is how much food you should be able to eat to maintain your weight and maintain your current body composition. So if that maintenance calories, you can use tdeecalculator.net, figure out your maintenance calories, find the range of, your active calories. It's just a formula, so it's not going to be perfect. It's just finding a range for you of what your maintenance should be. And if you go and you track your food for a week and you find you're eating 1,000 calories under that maintenance and you're not seeing weight loss or fat loss, you're not seeing positive body composition changes, you, my friend, need to spend more time eating at your maintenance calories. That is your issue. Okay. So that's the first thing is you need to spend more time eating at maintenance calories. So many women and people in general, but so many women spend too much time dieting, or whether they consider it a diet or they're in a calorie deficit or a cut or a fat loss phase, we spend way too much time doing that. So eat at maintenance most of the time and then go into strategic and efficient fat loss phases. Okay. So that's step one. Secondly, you then have to periodize your nutrition. So when you are ready for a fat loss phase. This is where, with our programs, we often start clients in a maintenance phase or a reverse diet to get their calories up, to help out their metabolism, to build more muscle, things like that, because they've already been dieting or in a quote unquote fat loss phase for like months or years, not seeing results. So, why would we keep trying to do the same thing that's not getting them results and expect anything different, right? So, we probably need to do that first with some people. But then, second, we want to periodize their nutrition when they are ready for their fat loss phase. And that means that we want to have specific timelines for how long we're going to stay in the cut or the calorie deficit. So typically, and in this episode, I'm going to talk mostly about kind of time frames or general timelines. I'm not going to talk so much about how many calories to pull and things like that. There are some like rough estimates I could give you, but that's going to be still very dependent on the person. I actually have a whole macro guide that teaches you how to DIY your macros and calories. It's like 25 pages, very in depth. If you need that, it's in the show notes. So you can scroll down and get that if you want to DIY this. But we're going to talk about like time frames for periodizing your nutrition. And when I say periodize, that's just like nutrition coach talk for phasing. So you need different phases, and we need to have time boxed calorie deficits versus these endless calorie deficits that just go on for like months and years, right? So typically for a fat loss phase, what I'll do with clients is might have them in a fat loss phase that's like somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks. Again, you guys, rough estimates. It's going to look different for everyone. So very much dependent on the person. But you can kind of think like maybe like a 4 to 6 week cut, quote unquote, cut would be like a mini cut, right? And that's going to be for the person who just wants to feel a little leaner, who maybe they've been at maintenance for some time and maybe they have a trip coming up and we're like, okay, well, we still want to keep building muscle. We still want to keep working on your body recomp, but you do want to like feel just a little trimmer, a little more lean. Let's put you in a little 4 to 6 week cut, you know, make you feel a little more trim, maybe pull off a little bit of body fat, and then we can even take you back out as soon as 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I will say that's really the minimum I would go, because especially as a woman, our bodies fluctuate so much month to month, right? Or within a month. So if you find that you are in a calorie deficit and you're 2 or 3 weeks in and you're like, nothing's changed, like the scale hasn't done anything. If anything, the scale's gone up 2 pounds or this or that. It's like, well, are you coming up on your period? Did you have a bad night of sleep? Did you work out extra hard? Were you stressed? Like that's really not enough time, enough data to tell us like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. But one thing you can know for sure is if you are being 90% plus consistent, then you should see some progress or change in like that 4 to 6 week time frame. But also you have to be honest with yourself. How consistent are you being too? So, but you do have to give your body that chance to actually regulate, because you could be super, super consistent, like 100% consistent. And because of where you're at in your cycle or whatnot, your body might be saying, the scale or whatever you're using to track metrics might be saying one thing when really you've made more progress than that one data point is showing us that week. So you could do like a mini cut, like 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. Or if you have more weight to lose, you could even go up to like a 12-week fat loss phase. And that would be someone who, again, they have more weight to lose. 12 weeks, I know, doesn't sound like much. Like it doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but you guys, that's 3 months, and that's a long time. So even that, if you're thinking like, oh, 12 weeks, not much time, that is 3 months. That is 1/4 of the year in a fat loss phase, right? So things that we look at with clients too is like, not only is how your body responding, but how are you psychologically feeling with your cut too. So that's something else we'll look at, is like, how long do we want to put you in a cut based off of what you feel like you can be compliant and commit to and be in a good head space and mental space, right? Also, what do you have coming up in your life? Like, why would we schedule you for this however long cut or plan for this when you have two vacations thrown in that time frame? We could do like a 4 to 6 week mini cut and then go, then you kind of go back to maintenance for your vacation and then, go back into a cut if we want. But that's also why with coaching, we need to know what's going on in your actual life, because that really helps with, figuring out, is a cut or trying a fat loss phase right now, does it even make sense? Right. Another thing too, if you're super stressed out, like I could tell you probably every single one of our clients has had some major life event happen in the time that they're working with us, right? Whether it is one of my clients who works in a jail and she got pepper sprayed in the face. Yep, that happened. Or someone else who's going through a divorce, or someone else who's struggling with an alcoholic husband. And I mean, y'all, real life stuff. Like, these people, my clients, are not, not when they sign up, people often think, oh, I want to wait for a perfect time. And I'm like, honey, we work together not long enough. You are like, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever, it's not going to be perfect, because life ain't perfect. That's not how it works. But that's why we have weekly check-ins and daily messenger text access with each other, because tell us about those things happening in your life so we can help you plan for them and periodize your nutrition protocol. And so if you're doing this on your own, take those things into account. The last thing you want to do is put yourself in a fat loss phase when your body is already stressed the freak out. I almost said the F bomb, which I keep this podcast clean, but I got passionate there for a second. So anyway, um, if you're really stressed out, not the time to do a fat loss phase, because being in a calorie deficit is another stressor on your body. So, like I said, the 12 weeks, like if you were to do a 12-week fat loss phase, very much, again, a long time, but depends on the person and it depends on your progress. How is your body progressing? Are you still seeing progress, or have you hit a plateau? Like your biofeedbacks, how is your energy? How is your sleep? How is your mood? How is your sex drive? How is your energy for your workouts? Are you still hitting PRs? Like, are you, which, that might be reduced while you're in a deficit. You might not be hitting PRs all the time because you don't have that extra fuel. But are you still like, do you still feel like you can show up with intensity for your workouts and things like that, right? We want to look at those factors, and also, like I said, your compliance. So it is okay if you're like, I'm like 8 or 9 weeks into this cut and I'm like tapped out mentally. Like, I just like am not in it to win it. That's where I'd be like, let's bring you out of the cut let's figure out at the time frame we want to bring you out, because that's what I find is people often mentally diet when they're not actually dieting. So then they get the mental fatigue from trying to diet, feeling like a failure because they're not doing it well or compliant consistently enough. And then they don't see the physical results, but they feel like they've been dieting for like 100 years because they just keep trying to push through and they can't be compliant. And I'm like, that is okay. Let's pull out of the cut. It's not the time right now, right? Those things actually really matter, because it's going to help you hang out at maintenance for when you need to, and then go into a cut when you can really be effective and efficient with it. Also, let's say we plan for I don't know, a 10-week cut. Okay. We're like, let's try to go for like a 10-week cut. We look at kind of your calendar and figure out, okay, like, do you feel like you can commit to that? Like, let's try that time frame, right? Let's say you get into, you're seeing progress, but like week 8 or week 9 hits and you're feeling really low energy in your workouts. You're like, just not really feeling it. You haven't seen progress, whether it's your pictures or measurements or scale in a week or two. Things like that. You've kind of hit this like little lull or plateau. This is where we might be like, hey, let's pull you out of the cut, give you a little bit of a diet break, and then go back into a cut in a couple weeks or even just in a week, right? That has been enough to help get a client out of a plateau by doing that. So this is again where we say periodize or phase your nutrition protocol. This could be a part of it too. So you can kind of go in with a plan or a guesstimate of how long you might want to be in a deficit or a cut, and just know that based off of your body and your biofeedback and your progress, we might need to pivot and change that, right? We've got to be flexible with ourselves and with our bodies, because life is unpredictable too, right? So, the point though, too, here is that you will eventually need to come back to your maintenance calories, you guys, for a diet break. So, I mentioned it just a second ago that diet break we might use when you hit a plateau, or we might just use it. Let's say you do go 12 weeks or however long in your fat loss phase. We don't want to just keep endlessly going because, again, the likelihood of you losing more muscle than is ideal, or down regulating your metabolism, or just not being able to maintain the fat loss or weight loss that we're getting to, it goes higher, that you won't be able to maintain that. So we do need to have a diet break, quote unquote, which is basically just a time where we are intentionally bringing your calories back up to maintenance. So if you're tracking your food, that means you're still tracking. You're just eating back at your maintenance calories. You're still eating 80 to 90% whole foods, 10 to 20% fun foods. You're just being more intentional about being at higher calories. And this is the time in this diet break when it's like, hey, let's focus on recovery, on healthy hormones, on your sleep, on pushing more weight in the gym, progressive overload, which you're still going to be using progressive overload in your deficit too, FYI. But this is where it's like, let's really focus. The primary goal is metabolism, muscle. Like that is what we want to hit on, because if we do, we're going to be even more successful going into our next fat loss phase when we're ready for it. Right. So even if you're having a super successful cut or calorie deficit, you will need to come back to your maintenance calories and probably go ahead and plan for it. Like I always prefer, if possible, go ahead and don't wait for the plateau, because then that can kind of be a frustrating point, or you might be having some negative kind of symptoms or biofeedback. Kind of go ahead and plan for it. Be like, okay, I'm going to be heads down and in it to win it in this cut for the next 9 weeks or whatever it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull myself back up to maintenance, and I'm going to give myself a diet break for this long. And then maybe I'll try another fat loss phase, in this time frame after that. You're like scheduling your nutrition out, right? And again, you might need to pivot or adjust things. You have to be flexible, but get ahead of it versus being reactionary to hitting plateaus as much as possible. So you can use diet breaks. Those can be, a week diet break could be a few weeks diet break back at your maintenance calories, or you could use even refeed days are really helpful. So when I was talking about this in my Facebook group on our live training, a couple ladies were like, what's a refeed day? So I'm going to explain that. A refeed day is where you're just taking one day out of the week to eat back at your maintenance calories. So the rest of the week, you're in a calorie deficit, but you have one refeed day. Or if you're really close to your goal body composition and goal weight, it could be useful for you to do like 2 refeed days a week. So 2 days eating back at maintenance. Because what happens, you guys, is the closer and closer you get to your goal body composition and the lower body fat that percentage that you get, it's going to be harder and harder to lose that last little bit, because your body is like, meh, we don't need to. We're healthy. I don't care about your aesthetic physique goals. Like, I don't care that you want a 6 pack, Megan. Like, you're healthy as you are. You don't need to lose more weight. We're good, right? Your body's all about maintaining homeostasis, and it wants you to be as balanced as possible. So if you're healthy, it's like we don't need, if we're already 20% body fat, we don't need to get to 18 or 19% body fat, right? 20% is healthy. So, your body doesn't want to do that. So refeed days can be really helpful because it can give you that little bit of fuel back to kind of give you that little boost. And I call it a refeed day. Some people might think of this as a cheat day. And I do not like that connotation for multiple reasons. Because one, this is not a go balls to the walls and eat 5,000 calories on ho-hos and donuts and, grease and fries and whatever. First of all, you're going to feel like crap for a few days after that, especially when you've been eating so, mostly clean and whole food and eating well. But also you don't want to go below that far over your maintenance calories either. So what we're trying to do is just have 1 or 2 higher calorie days back at your maintenance, but we don't want to go into this crazy surplus because we had a quote unquote cheat day. That means we're going to really negate our calorie deficit for the other days of the week. Oh, and for the overall total, for the week, we might not have actually created much of a deficit at all because we had this quote unquote cheat day. On the mental side of things, I also don't like a cheat day because I come from my binge restrict background, and I know a lot of people listening have struggled with binging and restricting. And if we're looking at our meals that way, like, oh, I get this one day where I get to binge, my quote unquote cheat day, and then the rest of the days I have to be so strict, then what are you more likely to do? Go overboard and binge on your quote unquote cheat day versus having a balanced approach throughout the whole week where, again, you're eating 80 to 90% whole foods, 10 to 20% fun foods every day of the week. And then you have 1 or 2 days for your refeed days back at your maintenance calories where you just get a little bit more calorie allowance to still have 80 to 90% of that whole food, 10 to 20% of it fun food, right? Total mindset shift. And you're not cheating if you are planning for eating at higher calories. That's not cheating at all. I'm like, I plan for that, right? And you're not even cheating. Maybe you do have a day where it's more like 60 to 70% whole food, 30 to 40% fun food. Like a day that I had a couple weeks ago at the fair, I had fried Oreos, fried Snickers, a chicken tender and fry basket, and my Diet Coke. I was like, that was definitely, in addition to all the rest of my food that day, that was definitely a 60% whole food, 40% fun food day for me, right? But I was planning for that. I knew that day was coming up, that even that wasn't a cheat day. I also, though, was not in a calorie deficit. I have not been in a deficit. If I was, I probably would have tried to circumvent that day that week. But I could have still found a way to work that in. I probably would have just opted out of the fried Oreos and fried Snickers, right? And I still would have gone to the fair. I would have just maybe had my chicken tender basket and fries and called that my refeed day with a little bit off as far as the percentages of whole food to fun food. But anyway, so all that to say, for refeed days, you can use those to your advantage as well, and they can help you avoid plateaus, especially the closer and closer you're getting to goal body composition. That's another way to periodize your nutrition. And refeed days can be really helpful for the lifestyle component of, if you do want a little extra calorie when you're going to because you have date night this week, or you're going to a wedding or whatever, and you're like, it would be nice to have a little bit more wiggle room with my calories. Refeed days are also helpful for that. It just helps with creating balance, and it also helps keep your body in that nice homeostasis, balanced place for you to continue to make progress in your deficit, right? So typically, what I say is if you have more than 15 pounds to lose, you will need to do it in several phases. Okay. Because if you don't phase your protocol, you're likely going to have a poor metabolism. You're going to have negative symptoms as a consequence. So think things like low energy, poor sleep, low libido. You're going to have rougher PMS symptoms. Yes, that's a true story, a big one. When I got my metabolism healthier, my body healthier, my PMS symptoms significantly improved. It's amazing. Infertility, anxiety, depression, weight loss resistance. I mean, so many negative consequences if you have a poor metabolism, not to mention downregulated hormones, muscle loss, like we talked about, all the things. And all of that is going to make your fat loss or your body composition goals very, very hard to sustain. And when you regain the weight, you're not going to be regaining that muscle mass. All the muscle you lost is most likely going to be replaced with more body fat, which means you now have even less muscle and more body fat when you go to start your next quote unquote diet or weight loss attempt, only making it that much harder on yourself. And it really becomes this vicious cycle, you guys. So if you do have more than 15 pounds to lose, you really, really need to think about periodizing your nutrition. Even if you have less than that to lose, you need to periodize your nutrition. But this again goes back to that episode 55, why you can't diet until you hit goal weight. This is the reason why, and why it is so important. So that's the why. Periodize your nutrition, okay? Phase it, plan for it, eat at maintenance more, all the things. And if you want me to help you with this, or want me and my team to help you, then you can actually head to the show notes and you can book a free consultation to see if one of our one-on-one coaching programs would be the right fit for you, because this is the exact kind of stuff, you guys, that we're working on with our clients so that they can finally break through those plateaus that they've been stuck in for years. Some women their whole adult life. I just had a new client sign up yesterday who's like, I've literally struggled with this my whole adult life. I'm over it. And they can eat more food, they have more food freedom, and they can finally sustain a fit, healthy body composition that they feel confident in. Like, what is not more to love? So, head on down to the show notes and you can book your free consultation, or don't. I don't care. You won't hurt my feelings. Either way, I hope this episode shed some light on what steps you need to take with your own nutrition so that you start seeing more progress. And I will catch you guys on the next episode.